For all the hoopla of Oscar night, there is one group of Hollywood professionals the Academy always overlooks. They're the anonymous performers from Central Casting, deserving of some extra attention, as Lee Cowan is about to show us.
Exit line.
You ought to be in picture.
Perfect. Go right in and have a seat.
Thank you. These are some of the most familiar faces you'll probably never recognize, hoping to be stereotyped.
Mob guy.
60s or 70s. Yeah, the lawyer. Do my CSI.
Into greatness.
2, 3.
Faces are photographed. Body parts are measured. Names don't matter here. It's all about size,
Bend your elbow.
shape, and type.
Your Will Smiths of the world, your Denzels, right here.
That's you.
That's me, all day.
Leroy's is the classic Hollywood dream. Like everyone here, he's hoping to become a Hollywood extra. The extras are Hollywood's houseplants, cinematic wallflowers, the face in the crowd, perhaps just the crowd itself. I got you! Jump! They are the unknown souls drowning with Leonardo DiCaprio.
You never get behind people traveling with infants.
They are the nameless airport passengers being chided by George Clooney. They are the Israelites, faithfully following Charlton Heston through the parted waters of the Red Sea. Or they're baseball fans.
Let's play ball.
So naturally cheering on Robert Redford.
In some ways, they're the unsung heroes of the movie world. But being unsung is kind of part of the job description, isn't it?
Film historian Leonard Maltin says there isn't a lot said or written about extras precisely because they're not supposed to be interesting.
You're not there to improvise. You're not there to show off. You're there to be part of the background, to be an authentic-looking part of the background.
So where do directors shop for that background? Well, in a place that sounds more like a punchline than a business. Central Casting.
No one believes there really is a central casting. The first statement is always, there's really a central casting?
Jennifer Bender is a VP of one of the biggest cliches in Hollywood.
Katter.
Part temp agency, part circus recruiter.
We get called, we want 3 blondes, 2 brunettes, 2 African Americans and an Asian between the ages of 20s and 30s. I mean, that's by definition what we do.
But it would make most human resources departments' heads blow off.
Exactly.
It's been around a long time.
Central Casting.
Since 1925, created as a better, more organized alternative to the perils of Hollywood's casting couch.
All right, now, give me everything you've got, you people. Ready now? Don't be extras. Be a nation.
Legendary director Cecil B. DeMille was a frequent client. He even appeared in a short film about Central Casting and its talent in waiting.
From the ends of the earth they come, waiting for the magic call.
Snap into it, girls. You're 5 minutes late now.
The magic call that may mean the lucky break.
Put your first, your middle, and your last.
Today, Central Casting's mission remains the same as it ever was.
Hey, Tori, it's Jason at Central. How you doing?
And 87 years later, remains a booming business.
Hey, Noelle, it's Summer at Central Casting. Calling to see if you can work Friday on NCIS LA.
It hires between 2,000 and 3,000 extras every single day, including casting Oscar-nominated films like Moneyball.
How many people are we talking about?
That movie had thousands. I mean, we had to fill up stadiums.
Chris Bustard was in charge of finding them all at the request of producer and star Brad Pitt. Fitting because, after all, Central Casting is where Pitt got his start.
And you just had a sense that it was going to work out?
Hell no, I didn't have an idea. I had no idea what I was doing. But I got here, I landed, I had a meal at McDonald's and got the paper, and by the end of the week, I was an extra.
So was John Wayne, Ronald Reagan, even desperate housewife Eva Longoria started as an extra. Pretty humble beginnings that are enough to keep some 300 new applicants coming to Central Casting every week.
So if you're looking for someone that has a lot of different, like him.
Yes.
Like that screams biker guy.
Yes, exactly.
Summer Wesson is one of the casting directors who has at her fingertips an unlimited database. If her screen came alive, it might sound something like this.
Biker, downscale bar patron, homeless,
cop, doctor, lawyer, news reporter,
baseball player.
Hair down, homeless, mental patient, lots of mental patient. Hair back, none, medical technician, nurse.
That clip was courtesy of CBS News Sunday Morning. So, you want to be a famous actor, huh? Well, get in line. You and everybody else. I think everyone has had that dream at least once, and some more than others. LA is famous for attracting starry-eyed youth from all over the world, only to grind them up to the reality of Hollywood and spit them back out into high-rent apartments and long hours at service industry jobs. The competition is fierce. For every acting job, there are hundreds of actors looking for work. Backstage.com, a leader in Hollywood's casting calls, states that for every 30 to 50 actors that get an audition, casting departments will give directors and producers 7 options to choose from for one person. The Guardian plainly states that only 2% of actors actually make a living as actors. MyActingAgent.com states that out of all SAG-AFTRA actors, only 0.04% will become famous. And that's what's going to happen if you come to LA with big dreams of becoming the next Tom Cruise. Reality is going to bite you in the rear end, and you are going to have to settle with trying to survive on background roles and working a second job in one of LA's many underpaid hospitality and service industry gigs. For all but the most determined people, this usually ends in defeat, with their return from where they came from, or for some that choose to persevere anyways, being stuck in dead-end jobs around town. This has resulted in everything from Hollywood hopefuls ending up on the streets homeless, addicted to drugs, to women ending up in bed with Harvey Weinstein. Both tragic for young people with so much potential. Hollywood studios alike virtue signal progressiveness and leftist ideology, but the reality is they are far more capitalist than probably any other industry in this country. If you want to get on set, all but the studio executives will be working very long hours, and all but the principal and main actors and directors on set will be generally underpaid. And if you are strictly doing background work, even if it's only initially and living somewhere in Los Angeles, you can count on Section 8 housing and food stamps to help keep you afloat as well. SAG-AFTRA, the union for all actors in Hollywood, has made a few changes for good, but overall the pay remains pretty low. So now that I've dashed your dreams, I want to say not all hope is lost if your dream is to act in Hollywood. There are a few things you can do to increase your chances of becoming successful, or at least carve out a meager middle-class lifestyle in one of the most expensive cost-of-living regions on Earth. First and foremost, background acting. The first thing you should do if you want to be in the movies or TV shows, or to see if this is something you want to do to begin with, is head straight for Central Casting's website at centralcasting.com. Central Casting is the main background casting agency that virtually every single major production in town uses. And I mean everybody. Warner Brothers, Universal, Fox, Paramount, Hulu, Netflix, Disney. For the most part, Central Casting is relegated to TV shows, whereas smaller casting offices, such as Bill Dan's Casting, will cast for movies. But if you are cast as an extra in a movie, you may need to pack your bags and have the free time to work on a project for an extended amount of time anyways, which is something I don't have time for, and neither will you if you are just visiting SoCal. Now, disclaimer. Background actors are just a nice word for movie extra. And to be completely honest, few people in Hollywood actually consider or respect background actors as actual actors, even though many websites, including Central Casting, will call background actors, quote, talent. However, there are more than a few reasons why you should begin in background acting if you are just touching down on runway 25 right at LAX from the Midwest with big dreams and hopes. First and foremost, background acting teaches you the basics of how a movie production works. You'll be right there in the middle of it all, learning how everything comes together. What the lingo is, such as back to one or stage left and right. Most importantly, you'll actually get to work with real-world celebrity actors and directors on real-world television shows and movies at real-world TV studios or sets. And yes, your friends and family will be able to flip through HBO Max or DirecTV and see you on screen. Background acting is all about luck, though. Something I'm going to harp on a lot in this episode and in the stories that I'll be sharing in this episode on my personal experiences so far. You might be cast with a background role in a high school football stadium and end up way at the top and in the corner, or maybe not even on camera at all. You may end up in a scene standing next to an A-list actor only for a production to cut your scene at the last second and you do not end up on the TV at all. You may be front and center and find out, you know what? The director just doesn't like what you're wearing today, only to cast you to the very back of the scene or out of it altogether. Or vice versa, you might be in the very back and off camera and the director just likes the way you look and brings you front and center for the scene to act with the main actors and actresses. Or you may hit the lottery and find yourself achieving the goal and dream of every background actor, as unfortunately rare as it is, by getting a line in the show. If this happens, you've literally landed the jackpot. You'll be upgraded to day player role, a term that used to be called bit part, be paid significantly more, and likely get a credit in the film. And most importantly of all, you'll be able to join SAG-AFTRA. We'll talk a bit more about how and why you may or may not want to join SAG-AFTRA in a bit. In addition to being paid to background act, you'll likely have a lot of downtime on set and have time to network with other actor hopefuls. The next thing you can do to help set yourself up for a career in acting in Hollywood is to act in student films. Student films do not pay you money, almost never get anywhere near the recognition of even the lousiest big budget studio productions, and you'll be doing the same thing you're doing on a Hollywood studio set, but for free and likely on a much smaller scale. So why would you waste a day in your life on a student film working for free? Because, my friend, you are investing in your future. That's why. While you will get to practice your craft on camera, there's an even bigger advantage you may not be thinking of. When you think of major celebrity directors like Steven Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino, or Peter Jackson, do you think they just turned 18, walked into Warner Brothers, grabbed the camera, and started filming Jaws, or Kill Bill, or Lord of the Rings? These A-list directors were once students and began with smaller projects. What I'm saying here is that the student directors and production teams you are working for, unpaid, are the future of Hollywood. They are the next Michael Bays and James Camerons. And they will remember you. They will. I still occasionally get emails from directors whose student films I worked on asking if I would like to be part of their next upcoming project. Hollywood is nothing if not networking. That's why there are talent agencies and recruiters and champagne-filled parties at the top of the Hollywood Hills and palatial estates. The last thing you want to do is submit to everything. And I mean everything. Projects you want to do and projects you don't. Until you end up as Tom Hanks, that can yay or nay, mostly nay, a bunch of emails every morning over cereal, beggars cannot be choosers. Each project you do increases your likelihood of success, and that includes background acting. Each project you do increases your chances of being upgraded to day player status, or getting a SAG-AFTRA voucher, or meeting the right connection that opens the door to something bigger and better. And those are my main tips for people just starting out. You'll notice I didn't add perseverance or commitment, or don't give up, or some corporate mantra like, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Or advice from a little green Martian on a swampy planet like, do or do not, there is no try. That's because everyone is going to have their limit on what they are willing to do or how long they're willing to persevere in the face of extreme odds. Me? I know I'll never be a famous actor eating steak and lobster, driving a Ferrari, and living in an 80,000 square foot home at the top of Brentwood. I faced that reality a long time ago. So I keep acting as a hobby. It's enough for me to get to be there, meet and work with the biggest celebrities in showbiz, see myself on TV, and occasionally get lucky. Now, yes, if Martin Scorsese calls me up tomorrow and asks me to star as a mafia hitman in his latest mob movie, of course I would accept. But the reality is, I don't have to bet my life goals and ambitions on that happening. I can do a background gig, get lucky as I have several times, and be happy. As Captain Picard once said, it is possible to commit no errors and still lose. That isn't weakness. That is life. In fact, my life goal in acting is much smaller than the average actor's. I just want to be part of SAG-AFTRA. That's it. That's my personal dream. I just want that SAG-AFTRA card in my wallet. And I can check off life goal 1 of 8. So far, I'm 4 out of 8 on that list, by the way, if you care to know. So on a podcast about things to do in SoCal, why am I talking about acting in Hollywood? Because acting in Hollywood, specifically background acting, is something each and every one of you can do in SoCal. even if you are just coming to visit for a few days. And I do mean literally anyone. You can be cute, ugly, skinny, buff, fat, facial hair, bald, wheelchair bound, missing limbs, any nationality. You can be a baby in your crib, 99 years old, call yourself by any pronouns you can think of. Hollywood needs you all for roles ranging from Ned Flanders' straight and narrow church attendees to heavily tattooed gangster henchmen that's about to kill again. And if you are new to the industry, you may or may not necessarily get your foot in the door, but it's a good way to learn the basics of how film sets work. The common lingo, as I explained earlier, such as crafty or rolling, the rank structure. I've always said Hollywood is 10% skill and 90% luck, and I do believe that. I've met so many incredibly talented people living and working in SoCal, and only a fraction of them will ever be discovered and make it. And I personally attribute that to, yes, hard work, but often just sheer luck. Or as it's called in Hollywood, your big break. So how do you get started with acting, whether you live in Southern California or just visiting? As I explained, and as I will go on into great detail, if you are me, only doing this as a hobby, working full-time and going to school full-time, you go through Central Casting in Burbank, California. If you are only going for the gold and willing to risk it all for a higher chance of success, you take acting classes and submit yourself to any and all auditions and opportunities you can. I'll be going through mainly the background acting aspect because that's where most of my personal experiences are, so you can decide if this is for you or not. Let's start with the route I took now. In 2017, I started as virtually everyone does. Central Casting. Anyone can sign up for Central Casting that is allowed to work in the United States. Central Casting, in a sense, becomes your employer, not the movie studios, and you become a freelance contractor. I registered online and had a tough time finding availability on their calendar, which only opens 3 days out. On top of that, you have to try and register as soon as 3 days out opens up on the calendar because it will fill up very fast. I kept checking back and finally managed to snag a day. There was no specified parking, so I parked on the street and entered the line about 20 minutes early just outside their main office entrance. There was already a guy standing outside checking your name on a list and looking to ensure you have proper identification. If you don't have a passport, you'll need a driver's license and an additional document, such as a social security card or a birth certificate. If you pass the identification test, you get a blue card and will be admitted right at 9:10 a.m. If you don't pass the identification test, come back another day. It goes in order. The earlier you line up, the faster you will be processed and leave. Once we get inside, there are 3 rows of chairs. The first row has desks and the second 2 rows have nothing, just a chair. And you'll have to hope you can get your hands on a clipboard. But from here, you will get about an hour brief and start to fill out paperwork so that you can work. This will all be done step by step on a PowerPoint slide so you don't get lost. At the beginning of the brief, they will ask you to look into several CCTV cameras they have set up in the classroom and wave, stating that casting directors were watching at that very moment and picking people for roles already. Everybody waved, I pointed. They must have been telling the truth because I got selected with about 10 other people I registered with for the same project the next day. But anyways, during the hour in the classroom, you will go over your paperwork, explain essentials and your duties while working on projects through Central Casting. Basic stuff you should know. That would be common sense, like not leaking plots of TV shows you are working on, asking for an autograph when your favorite actor walks on the set, following directions from production assistants and assistant directors, showing up on time or at all, along with a few partially hilarious, partially sad stories as examples of what not to do. After this, each row will be excused to check the paperwork at the 2 tables inside the classroom. If they doubt your sizes that you listed on the paperwork, you will be measured. So be honest and save yourself some embarrassment. Like I said, you don't have to look like Taylor Swift to land a role as a background actor on TV. They need literally anyone and everyone depending on the role they're trying to fill. If you printed Tim Alcozer on some papers, but put Tim Alcozer Jr. on others, you'll be forced to make it uniform and be chided about it like I was. After your paperwork is done, all you have to do is get a photo taken. 2, in fact. Some people brought a small wardrobe of outfits. You should not. You're not going to need them here. They will only be taking 2 photos today of whatever you are wearing. a face shot, and a body shot. They will do updates at a later date with an appointment, with a bathing suit, dress clothes, and a tuxedo, but that's about it. However, once you are registered with Central Casting, you will have the ability to add photos to your own profile later. So, after taking my pictures, I was finished. Be advised, the entire process took just over 2 hours, and I was in the second row. There are restrooms and vending machines for snacks and drinks if you need it when you come in for your enrollment at Central Casting. My next appointment after Central Casting was at Extras Management, which was directly across the street from Central Casting. Extras Management is kind of, sort of, maybe like a talent agency for extras, except you pay them for the service. More on that in a minute. Keep in mind, joining a background service agency like Extras Management or Uncut Casting is not required to do background jobs in Hollywood. Everything goes through Central Casting one way or the other. So why would you even consider paying for a service like this? Because while Central Casting will keep your information and photos on file for casting directors to consider, services like Extra Management will actually submit you to projects every single day based on what casting directors are looking for. Like Central Casting, third-party background agencies like Extras Management cannot guarantee you'll be selected for anything, but you will likely increase your chances of being selected. There are a number of agencies around town that offer this service along with a varied pricing model. Anything from free to $80 a month to one-time $300 fees. And I've done several of them. Keep in mind, if an actual talent agency contacts you and asks you to pay a fee, it's almost always a scam. Talent agencies earn commission percentages after you sign a contract with a production, not upfront. And unfortunately, a lot of actors in Hollywood get scammed this way. They act like, hey, we got your, we'll hire you on as part of our talent. We got all the ins on all the major productions and TV shows. And, you got to pay us $300 to get started, processing fees. And a lot of actors fall for it. And it's just not true. No professional talent agency will charge you up front. They always earn commission, a small percentage based on you getting work and what you're paid. So if somebody comes up to you or they send you an email saying, give me $500 and I'll get you in, just run. It's a scam. Anyways, as such, background agencies are not true talent agencies, but more of a service to increase your chances of getting roles. So after signing up with Central Casting, I had 3 hours to kill. I decided to pick up 2 wardrobe items from a company called Thrifty Rents. This included an LAPD uniform and a sheriff uniform so that I could take some photos at Extra Management with them, which, unlike Central Casting, they permit. I found the address and was expecting either a warehouse or a shop. Instead, I found a house. I texted the owner and he welcomed me inside. Turns out he has his uniforms stored in a small warehouse, but gets them cleaned and set up and ready to go in a house. Seemed pretty sketchy to me at first, but it turned out to be okay. The uniforms were great. They fit, and I took them with me to Extras Management. I was able to rent them for $20 each per day for the shirt, pants, badge, and name tag, and already had my own duty belt to use, so it finished off the look. They ran out other stuff too. Police equipment, props, duty belts, medical profession, costumes, janitor, etc. You get the idea. After picking up my uniforms, I charged my Tesla at the Americana at Brand, a luxury shopping mall located a few miles west of Griffith Park, and walked around like I was homeless compared to how everyone else was dressed at this luxury shopping mall. Then I headed over to Extras Management. After arriving, I was greeted and sat in a back room with about 6 or 7 other people. A man came in and explained to us how Extras Management worked and helped us fill out paperwork. Essentially, Extras Management works with Central Casting and about 20 other casting agencies, as well as casting directors, to fill roles for you automatically. You give them available days and what you are willing or not willing to work, and they do the rest. For example, my availability at that time was Mondays and Tuesdays, and I am not willing to work a production if I have to shave my head. There are a lot of options you can choose. Comfortable in gay bars, nudity, partial nudity. This was followed by your attributes. For example, I can scuba dive, and I am just about as proficient as you can be in a variety of weapon handling. I can ski. I've served in the Marines. previously was certified California State Peace Officer. And you can put all this information down for casting directors to consider. If they don't have to train you how to not play with firearms, whether they're real or not, and how to use them properly and look realistic in a scene using them. That way you're not kicked off set for pointing a realistic looking gun at somebody. It's happened, guys. So, unlike central casting, they automatically just assume, that is extras management, that you are available for roles on the days you specify, and they just book you automatically. Then they'll just inform you later, hey, we booked you on this. You show up the next day for this role. Whereas central casting will ask you if you are available. A service like extras management will automatically assume, based on your availability calendar, that you fill out and simply send you the role with the time and details of what you'll be doing. This gets you in immediately so you don't miss out. But you have to be able to manage your schedule and give them a heads up if you can't work a certain day or a certain period of time. It's a lot more convenient for me because I often cannot access my phone at certain times, depending on what I am doing. And the entire attitude of staff was completely different than that of central casting. Whereas central casting felt more like the DMV, you really do feel like they're clients at extras management. They also create a profile you can access with all your information, attributes, wardrobe, skills, so that you can double check everything at casting and basically see everything that the casting director is going to see. Next to your uniforms, casting directors can click on an image to see what you look like, say, in an LAPD uniform if they desire. Extras management explained that if you had your own uniforms, casting directors were more likely to hire you in general because they could save money by cutting out their own wardrobe. Total cost per month for extras management was $84. They will charge you the day you start, but prorate based on what day of the month it is. Also, if they don't book 4 jobs for you, they lower the charge you have to pay that month. Not being able to book you any jobs would be $10 or $15 for the service, which Shea explained, quote, never happens. Nope, I don't get any kickbacks from extras management or thrifty rents or central casting for that matter. I just wanted to explain my experience and what I went with and what you'll be going through if you decide to use any of these services, which, if you're a background actor, you're going through central casting whether you like it or not, unless you just have the in from some studio executive, I guess. All right, here we are for the fun part. My very first background acting role. While on my way home from extras management, I got a text from central casting asking if I was available to work the next day on a major TV show at 4:13 p.m. By chance, I did have the next day off, so I replied, yes. At 4:34 p.m., I got a message from the same automated system that said I was booked. It stated, do not reply yes if you have worked the job recently. I replied yes. At 5:44 p.m., I got a new message with my role and a code I could punch in to monitor the callback times for the next day. The phone message had the time and another code I could punch on Central Casting's website for the details on my role and instructed me what to bring. After I got home, I punched in the show name and code and discovered I needed to bring a dress suit, but not a full suit. So basically dress clothes. I need to bring a shirt, tie, pants, just not the jacket really. So I got my setup ready and I went to bed. The next day, I put on my dress clothes and drove to the location specified, which was Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank, California. After I got there, I parked and checked in with security. They gave me a pass and I reported to a parking area near the stage I would be working in. I checked in with a production assistant at a table and she gave me my non-union voucher, then directed me over to the wardrobe. Wardrobe asked me if I brought a jacket with my dress clothes, and I said no. I was instructed not to. So they issued me a jacket and took one of my vouchers to ensure I would return the coat. After getting cleared by wardrobe, basically you're going to stand in front of them. They're going to be like, yeah, you look like what we need. And they just send you away. Otherwise, they'll be like, no, let's try something else. But anyways, after being cleared by wardrobe, I waited in a group to be escorted to the stage. I immediately recognized several people that I registered with on the previous day at Central Casting, including the guy that sat next to me. We were escorted into stage 33 and instructed to set up chairs in our holding area, which was along the walls on one side of the stage. And basically we set up our own little spots where we could kind of hang out when we weren't being used for a scene. The entire center of the stage building was a maze of different rooms, hallways, offices, and other areas pertaining to the show. Breakfast was set up on another side of the stage, and it had just about anything you could want for breakfast. Hot food, cold food, coffee, juice, fruit, snacks, cookies, soda, water, pastries. Really, you name it. I was shown the way to props and obtained a man purse. Soft briefcase to go along with my uniform. I turned in the remaining 2 vouchers and returned to holding to wait further instructions. By the way, I apologize. I said 2017 is when I registered with Central Casting. I meant it was 2019. I don't know how I skipped 2 years, but November 2019 is when I registered with Central Casting. So anyways, it wasn't long before I was ready to shoot my first scene. It would take place in a hallway in a courthouse. The main actors would be walking down the hallways, and my job was basically to come out of a door and walk directly behind them. They turned one corner and I turned the other and continued into another door. We did the scene about 7, 8, or maybe 9 times. I never got yelled at or asked to change something, but a lot of the other background actors did. I could see the frustration from both the directors and the assistant directors to the point where they would even yell angrily sometimes at background actors. In one instance, one background actor was told to leave because he made a rude comment back to one of the assistant directors. Following directions is a must. The production is on a very tight schedule and even tighter budget and can't afford delays. Once you become Mel Gibson, maybe then you can walk off stage and have your agent smooth things over. Until then, my friends, you are at the bottom of the totem pole as a background actor and should be trying to make an impression. It's important to note that Hollywood is a small town and word gets around fast. If you mess up on background jobs, you are not going to get far nor be asked to come back to any other production in town. There are absolutely actors who are blacklisted, whether that's for not following directions as a background actor or even popular celebrities due to their politics. In any case, I think one thing that makes this job easy for me is I do not get starstruck over celebrities or follow celebrity news. Outside the very top talent, I generally have no idea who you are if you are famous. And if you want me to be completely honest, I might even pass you in the hallway and give you a nod and pretty much treat you like every other commoner. After all, we all put on our pants the same way every morning, don't we? But regarding working on set, it was the little things I thought was cool to see. The stuff you don't see in the TV shows or the movies. For example, the elevator door that is supposed to take you to some other floor, but just empties out into a wooden box instead. The sets look fantastic. They are absolutely amazing on TV, and they look even more amazing when you're actually standing there. I actually thought the window in the hallway was looking outside, but when I got closer, it was all lighting and background. Other little details were fun to observe. The little problems that pop up, like the elevator door I gave you earlier, that doesn't open automatically like it should have, thus being forced to be supplemented by hand from somebody inside hiding. The cool cameraman with his goatee and Metal Militia t-shirt. The frustrated director telling the cast and crew, okay, now let's actually do it right this time. The 2 hours I had to hear about 20 retakes on the other side of a wall on the same crucial 3-minute scene until they got it right. Almost being knocked over by the cute star actress when she messed up her scene and immediately turned around to reset, almost plowing right into me. Luckily, I was able to jump out of the way in time. She laughed and said sorry. Some famous person laughed at me and said sorry. You know, the cool stuff you only occasionally get to hear about through the commentary if you are lucky. After the hallway scene, I went back to holding and stayed there for 9 hours. This happens a lot on film sets if you are working background. Holding is an area where the background actors wait for their scenes. It's infinitively worse than having your own trailer like the main stars do. When I went back to holding, they wrapped, or let go, almost all the background actors, including the guy I sat next to at Central Casting. They went through and selected about 6 of us to stay. Basically, the production assistant came out and was like, you're wrapped. She just pointed, walked by people. You're wrapped. You're done. She walked by me, stared at me for a second. It's like, you stay. I nodded. For some reason, I was chosen to stay. I like to think I did something right and was following directions well, as I do, But in reality, I probably was just a good fit for another upcoming scene. Still, through the next 9 hours, I kept thinking, if they aren't going to use me anymore, just let me go. I feel like I was in prison. I am, however, responsible and disciplined enough not to ask to leave. If I take a job, I finish it, period. As I was taught in the Marine Corps, General Order number 5, to quit your post only when properly relieved. They were now filming a scene in a courtroom. The production assistants would come back in here, back into the holding area, and basically select people to take part of the scene. I was selected a few times, but when I got there, I was always sent back by the assistant director. The assistant director, or AD as they're called for short, was so calm through the entire day, I could have sworn she was on Xanax. I don't mean that in an offensive way. She was relaxed and calm and in control, in stark contrast to the PAs, or production assistants, who were constantly on the move, often looking stressed and yelling at background actors to be quiet during rehearsals and filmings. And for me, it was highly frustrating to have to sit there and watch how unprofessional some of the background talent was, and watch it in turn frustrate the PAs. I'd even watch as PAs walked away. Some of the background actors would then just roll their eyes like teenagers and go back to whatever they were doing. I also witnessed 2 adult ladies FaceTiming with their boyfriends while a scene in this TV show was being shot just on the other side of a wall. Why were they not walked out is well beyond me. When the director yells action, everybody shuts up. If you're not partaking in the scene itself, you are not talking. You are not making any noise. Your phone cannot ring. No, not even a mouse. If there's a mouse, you can bet Tom from Tom and Jerry is going to be sent in to take care of them. These cameras and audio equipment are just so sensitive. They will pick up absolutely anything. And some girl FaceTiming with her boyfriend is definitely going to be picked up on camera if they keep doing it while the scene's being filmed. In fact, there's every stage, no matter what studio you're at, has a red light on the door. When that red light is on, nobody can come in or out. That's because even just opening the door is too loud. Short story long, when a director yells action, the only people that should be talking or moving or doing anything are the people on scene performing whatever they're performing. And everybody else needs to shut up. Now, I come from a law enforcement military background. I can never deal with an undisciplined group of people working for me like that can't follow the simple directions to keep their mouth shut. And it was just unacceptable to me. So if you're coming to be a background actor, or even just an actor, if you get hired for a role, follow the directions, know the customs and courtesies on set, such as, basically know what what your role is, and know what the lingo is. When the director says rolling, that means the camera's rolling. When he says background, that means background start moving and doing what you're going to do, such as pantomiming or talking, pretending to talk with somebody. When he says action, the main actors are moving and nobody else should be saying anything. Anyways, nothing tells you how low you are on the acting totem pole on a production like a nice hot meal. The PAs told us multiple times not to eat until everybody else had eaten first. Actors, directors, crew, grips, cameramen, maintenance people, the janitor, PAs, everybody. Everybody gets to eat before you. Background was only permitted to eat for lunch about 30 minutes after the food was set up. This was different for me. In the Marine Corps, it's the exact opposite. You let the junior Marines eat first. Privates will eat first, all the way up the chain of command. If there's anything left, the commanding officer gets to eat. They do feed you, however, and they feed you well. They cater to some really high-class catering companies that has just about whatever you could really want to eat or drink. High-quality stuff. We're talking filet mignon, tri-tip, salmon, vegetables, any kind of soda or juice. It's really high-quality stuff because the main actors and directors are eating there basically right with you. for lunch on set. So, you know, they eat well. In any case, one of the hard lessons I had to learn about background acting was just how long it can take to finish a job. I assumed Hollywood, like any capitalistic setup, despises overtime and assumed I might get 8 or 9 hours in. Nope. If you are doing background acting, don't schedule anything else for that day. I got on set about 6:30 a.m. and I didn't leave until about 8:30 p.m., which really, really sucked because I had scheduled my very first real acting class with Katt Shea acting. Katt Shea is a famous actor and director. Some of her recent roles include Rescue by Ruby on Netflix and Nancy Drew and The Hidden Staircase, a movie that came out a few years ago as well. So while I was on set, I sent an email informing them I wouldn't be able to make it, and evidently they didn't see it in time. I really needed to be there to round out the 3 other folks who were there that day, and I'm sure she had everything planned out. I felt pretty bad. Lesson learned. When I took her class a week later, I made sure I did not schedule anything else except that class. I'm grateful for the fact I get to have a fantastic director teach me the ropes in acting, like Katt Shea. In any case, I ended up pulling a 14-hour day. I consider a 14-hour day a very long day when I'm at work, but 9 hours just sitting and holding is the equivalent of eternity. For you Catholics out there, I think holding is meant to simulate limbo. So if you want a limbo simulator, this is the place to be. So anyways, around hour 8, my rear end is pretty sore from these hard plastic chairs. So I end up just kind of walking around in circles and back and forth, bored out of my mind. Phone's already low on battery. And they kept me around all day just to finish a scene at the end where I'm chatting with someone in a room directly in view of the camera. Basically, I'm the lawyer and this person is the client, and we're having a very serious conversation about, her upcoming trial. And it looks like we're having a very serious conversation, but we aren't. We're talking California crime and politics. And if I do say so myself, I'm sure it came out great on camera. Inevitably, you are going to see and talk with many different kinds of people in holding. Even for an introvert like myself, you will get to meet all kinds of people from many different walks of life, but by and large, poor folks who are trying to make it in Hollywood and honestly to their next paycheck. The retirees, the laid off, the young aspiring actors with stars in their eyes, the college students, and people like me with a decent paying middle-class job, pension, and benefits, just trying something new. In any case, we wrapped up around 8:30 p.m. I turned in my man purse and got 2 of my vouchers back, turned in my coat, got my 3rd voucher back, had the PA sign my paperwork, and I was off. Despite the agonizing wait times and holding, I can genuinely say I had fun. It's a job, but it definitely feels more like pretend playtime. Only you get paid for it. Working with all the professional actors on set is really an incredible experience. Very, very few people in the world get to do. If you do a background job, I have a few suggestions to make your time much easier. Bring a phone, battery pack, and charging cable because you will probably be on your phone all day long and holding. Just hopefully not FaceTiming while they are filming a scene, 30 feet behind you. If you can't manage to keep your phone on quiet, just turn the dang thing off and leave it in your car. There's nothing more painful than hearing action and then a few moments later, a phone ringing. I was generally pretty surprised they let us bring it into the stage to begin with. Fact is, you are replaceable. You're a necessary evil and expect to be treated as such. Just do what the PAs and the DAs ask you, nothing more. And especially do what the director asks you if he even acknowledges your existence to begin with. Nothing else. It's not hard and you will make their jobs much easier and by extension yours. And if you're planning to branch out into principal acting or day players from here, these are the relationships that you are building now. We all know Hollywood runs on relationships and these folks aren't going to be PAs and DAs forever. These production assistants and directing, second directors and everything else, they're going to be the next directors. So you might want to make an impression now, just like you would with the student films. By the way, something kind of funny, something that you don't get to see on, watching it, something on TV as opposed to actually being there on set. Think about the most intense and dramatic scenes you've ever seen. I'm talking Frodo rescuing Sam from the River Anduin, or Titanic when they're in the water and, she's crying because she has to let Jack go, or when Professor Snape dies in Deathly Hallows Part 2, or when Robert has to kill the dog in I Am Legend, or even when Tony Stark dies in Avengers Endgame. Think about all these scenes and the director yells, "Cut." You know what happens next. I mean, obviously everyone's acting. So, you wipe the tears out of your eyes, and in the next instant, everybody pulls out their cell phone, starts texting, making a call. That's just something kind of I found humorous when I was watching a really dramatic, just based on the acting roles I've been in, a dramatic scene, and the director yells "cut," and the lights just flip off like that, and everyone pulls out their phones like nothing's going on. And, there's still, Snape's still like dressed in his robes, I'm sure, and about to, well, he was on the verge of death, and now he's making an appointment with his hairstylist. And anyways, I just wanted to add that in. That happens in my experience on every show I've been on, no matter what the scene is, no matter how funny or serious or sad or romantic. Once that director yells "cut," man, they cut, and they pop out their cell phones underneath their robes or whatever else they're wearing, and check the latest on Facebook or Instagram. Just a funny little tidbit I wanted to add in there. Another tip for background acting: I saw some people bring their own camp chairs that fit into their backpacks and garment bags. This is a great idea, as the hard plastic chairs aren't the most comfortable thing in the world after 14 hours, and that is probably what you'll be relegated to at most movie studios. When doing background jobs, I will also bring a laptop and even a Nintendo Switch. In all cases, it's acceptable to use as long as you are not on set and in holding. Just make sure you're paying attention. By the way, you should also bring headphones. So if you're going to play Animal Crossing, maybe pop one headphone in, keep the other one out so you can listen for directions or see what's going on set. And one thing you don't have to bring with you to a background acting job, or any acting job for that matter, is food. Film productions are famous for their food, and it's not a stretch to say that some of the best food you will ever have will be on a Hollywood production. In my case, it's half worth it showing up just for the food. It's really that good. As I said earlier, you're eating the same thing the famous actors and directors, along with valued guests such as authors and other celebrities. So it's no wonder that it's borderline Michelin status. The food on set is one of my favorite parts of performing background jobs. I won't lie. I think I like it even more than the pay, which, granted, isn't much anyways. Further, there is a group of tables set up that is nicknamed Crafty, which is short for craft services. And this table is available all day long and has all kinds of snacks and drinks for you to eat, so you'll never be hungry on set. So overall, with this first background acting job, I learned so much in one day of shooting. The different positions on the totem pole and their functions, different commands and what they mean, what that big red light at the stage exit and entrance means. On that note, before I wrap up my first background acting job and we get on to the next couple, I want to share with you the biggest takeaway I got from my first background acting job. The actors themselves. Although most TV and movie stars live in a bubble, in my humble opinion, they are extremely hardworking, dedicated human beings to their craft. I've always envisioned they did 2 or 3 takes, said a few lines, called their assistant to book dinner reservations at Fig and Olive, then retired to their trailer for a nap before the next scenes later that day. Absolutely not. That is not how it works. These folks work their butt off, giving it their absolute all day long. They were filming when I got there, and when I left, tired out of my mind 14 hours later, they were still at it. As I almost hit the door to the stage, I heard again, action, and stopped so they could finish the next scene without me disturbing any of the sound. I gained a newfound and incredible respect for the work these folks put in, just for my approval and entertainment on TV. Now, I'm not going to say that some of the more higher A-listers don't do that, or especially maybe guest appearances with famous actors. But for most actors, it's hard work. And they're at it 5 days a week, sometimes more, working long hour days. The only good news is once the show ends and there's a break in between seasons, they, just like teachers, they get off 2, 3, sometimes 4 months. And, they can go on their vacation to the Bahamas or wherever else they're going to go. So all that hard work does pay off in money and time off, at least for the main actors anyways. So that was my very first acting job for the show All Rise on CBS. And the episode was What the Constitution Means to Me. If you watch that show, see if you can find me. In any case, in November 2019, the next background job I got was to do Amazon Prime's Bosch during their season 6 finale. This was arguably the most fun I've ever had on set. Now that this episode is aired, I can certainly talk about it in more detail, whereas I couldn't obviously immediately after filming it. Essentially, this was a courtroom scene that ended up with a bombing of the courthouse with everything that entails and everything you can imagine, from a bomb exploding inside a courthouse with you in it. From panic and chaos to explosions, lights out, ceilings coming down. It was a blast. A dangerous, scary blast. Literally and figuratively. In most background acting roles that occur off a movie studio lot, production will purchase a parking garage or lot for use by the production itself. They will set up some offices and trailers in this lot and basically it's a place for crew and actors and everybody else to park. If you've ever turned on your favorite TV show and at the end there's the credits, or especially in a movie, you'll usually see the line drivers followed by a bunch of names. In productions, there's literally a group of people whose sole purpose on set is to drive you from this parking lot to the filming location, which is usually only a few miles away at most. So once I checked in at the parking lot, I got into a van with one of the drivers and they took me over to the set. Once I arrived on set, I discovered they used a closed down courthouse in San Pedro for the shoot. Holding for background actors was in one of the former courtrooms, while the shoot was occurring in a courtroom 2 doors down. My sole role during this shoot was to be a courtroom spectator, where I was observing the trial, and once the bomb is discovered in the actual courtroom, run out and panic. I was actually portraying the true coward in the scene to Titus Welliver's courageous actions of Bosch, trying to get everybody out of the courtroom while he stayed behind to try to defuse the bomb. But unfortunately, they cut my part out. And that sucked because I was really proud of the scene. In this scene, I was shoving everybody out of the way, including ladies, so that I could be the first one out to save my sorry butt. Then I took off top speed right behind Madison Lintz, who was portraying Bosch's daughter, down the hallway to escape. It would have been a funny scene. I guess maybe I was being too aggressive. I don't know, but they cut it out. But anyways, Bosch, realizing he can't defuse the bomb, ends up throwing it in a holding cell and closes the door right before it goes off. About halfway down the hallway, as I'm running, the bomb goes off. Lights go out, smoke fills the corridors, lights come down from the ceiling hanging by a wire. Just lots of fun to watch and even more fun to act out live. Let me tell you. This whole scene with the courtroom and then the bomb going off at the end took about 3 days to film. And I came back for each shoot. Everybody was in a pretty good mood on the Bosch shoots because, it was the finale and this was the last shooting they had to do before they basically went on their little, for some reason, Titus Welliver was really obsessed with a line from another movie and he kept saying it over and over again to like everybody that crossed his path. And that scene was from Goodfellas, basically where Joe Pesci and, Billy Batts, who is Frank Vincent, says to Joe Pesci, "Now go get your effing shine box." And if you cross paths with Titus Welliver at all, whether you're actor, background, or anybody else, he would just say this line at you, you know, like, you wanted to know, he was king here. and he certainly was. Again, it's just the little stuff like that you don't get to see in the actual final production of the film or TV show. All the little background stuff, all the little funny things that happen, the mistakes, the angry directors, everything else. That's a lot of fun to see. That way, when you actually go and watch the show or the film, you can, you're sitting with a bunch of people. You can be like, hey, you know what happened here before this part? And you can kind of give some insight. It's kind of fun. So that was Bosch on Amazon Prime. And as fun as that was, I think the coolest thing I've got to do as a background actor was on Hulu's Pen 15 season 2, episode 7. And again, just like Bosch, this episode has already been released, so I'm fortunately at liberty to speak about it. In December 2019, I got the date right this time, not 2017. In December 2019, Central Casting sent me a message asking if I was available for a background job on Hulu's Pen 15. I replied yes and received a reply shortly after that I had been booked and my role would be as a chef. Pen 15, by the way, is described as middle school as it literally happened, or as it really happened. The main actors, Maya Erskine and Anna Konkle, who were both 31 years old at the start of season 1, played versions of themselves as 13-year-old social outcasts in the year 2000, surrounded by actual 13-year-olds, where the best day of your life can turn into your worst with a stroke of a gel pen. The show takes its name from a school prank involving tricking someone into writing the word Pen 15 on their hands by asking if they want to join the Pen 15 Club. If you still haven't got what Pen 15 means or is yet, write it down or type it down and stare at it for a minute and it'll come to you. But at the time I had no idea. I was kind of naive to it. I thought Pen 15, that's a weird name. It's about 15 pens, ballpoint. But I assumed I would be the school chef or something because I once I knew what show I was going to go on, I immediately looked it up and started seeing a bunch of school scenes and everything else. I was like, okay, so I guess I'm going to be some school chef serving food or something to a bunch of kids. And I assumed maybe I'd be way back in the kitchen where nobody could see me. But what I got was something far greater and far more awesome than really I could ever hope for. Once I arrived, I was given a chef uniform to wear. It was stained and dirty, but this was intentional. And the uniform was, in fact, very clean. By the way, I'll have photos of this and all the other stuff. Just basically random photos from scenes on sets that I was allowed to take on the podcast website, onedayinsocal.com, onedayinsocal.com. Click on the link photo log at the top. But anyways, my role in this episode was to work in a pizza restaurant kitchen as a chef. But for the first time, I would get to directly act with the main actors and even speak a single word. It was really a dream come true, but unfortunately it was not enough to get me into SAG-AFTRA, which sucks. But in this scene, towards the end of the episode, May and Anna are celebrating their successful conclusion of a school play with their parents and friends, and they decide to go out and celebrate at a pizza restaurant. Maya and Anna walk into the pizza joint, which takes place at the real Valentino's Pizza in Sherman Oaks. By the way, I'll have the location on the map on the website, along with every other location that I've filmed at or been in a film at. But anyways, they walk boldly into the back of the kitchen just as I'm coming out of the refrigerator with fresh cheese. I head back into the kitchen and start to cut up the cheese as they enter. They start to eat the freshly grated cheese, and I stare at them in disbelief. The only words I can muster in the scene, scripted of course, are, "Hey." The other chef working with me in the scene gets angry and yells at them to get out of here and starts chasing them out. And that was it. That was the scene. But I got to be back there and talk with them a little bit and get actual direction from the director himself. And it just felt like I was a day player, and I really wasn't. I was a background actor and I wasn't upgraded, but really cool just to actually act in Hollywood, even if it was just a quick scene. It's probably my greatest moment so far. And something I'm always going to cherish, that I got to actually do some real acting in Hollywood, even if it was just for, 10 seconds. But anyways, we did the scene a few times, and that was it. The director was happy with it. And I'll have this scene along with photos from working on set on the website, as always, onedayinsocal.com. onedayinsocal.com on the video section. The only student film I've been in so far was Pursuit of a Jigsaw, a short film about a man working in corporate America who starts to lose his sense of self after entering a desired marriage. It was supposed to be a horror film, and it's fairly entertaining to watch if you ever get a chance to see it. I believe it's free on, let me think here. I know you can watch it on cautionspoilers.com, and it's located in a few places now. Vimeo for sure. Not on YouTube. I stand corrected. It is on YouTube now. It wasn't initially, but you can watch that scene. I'm just basically one of the office workers. It's a true background scene. We're arguing over something in a corporate board meeting, and that's basically my whole scene in the thing. But just another fun thing. My first student film. Got to experience what it was like to work on a main production show at a movie studio, and then a student film at a rented office. So that was kind of cool. And I stand by what I said earlier. Work for these future directors, these future Hollywood celebrities, because they will remember you, and you will network early, and they will be the next thing. Steven Spielberg's not going to be alive forever, and someone's going to be right there to take his place, and it might as well be one of these USC film school students or otherwise. So the last thing I did before COVID took off and destroyed everything in December of 2019 was probably my least favorite role of all. Acting as an enthusiastic audience member for the TV show Holy Moly. If you've ever been to a miniature golf course, you know it's one crazy setup after another as you try to avoid obstacles or use them to get a hole-in-one. Well, take that to the extreme in Holy Moly as contestants compete in supersized miniature golf obstacles. For example, the Distractor. The Distractor has guests trying to putt a golf ball into a hole about 20 feet away after a giant wall turntable reveals something that's supposed to distract them, which ends up being everything from a USC marching band to a crew of half-naked men from Thunder Down Under to an Army drill sergeant screaming at you from the sides. Then there's an obstacle course where you are the ball trying to avoid the spinning windmill and the water or the sand trap, stuff like that. Fun to watch, not fun to pretend and be the enthusiastic screaming outside while it's like 20 degrees with full wind blowing. I remember they filmed this episode, the episode I was in, on a freezing cold December night in Santa Clarita, California. All I had on was a hoodie, and it was not enough. Fair to say everybody was really miserable and could not wait to go home. But when rolling was announced and the camera started and action was declared, we did our jobs and pretended to be interested and happy and cheerful and an audience. After this incident, I do everything in my power to avoid audience work. And yes, you heard that right. Many of your favorite TV shows on TV that are made to look like actual reality TV with audiences are fake. You know, in case you haven't figured that out yet. Or when a TV show can't find enough real people to sit in the audience, they go to central casting to fill the seats. And any show that lame that requires, paying people to sit in the audience should probably be canceled. Maybe they should take a hint. Anyways, after Holy Moly, COVID really took off starting in January, and productions either stalled or stopped completely for a long time. When they did start up again, SAG-AFTRA initiated a new policy requiring all actors and crew, whether background actor, assistant director, or main actor, to get a COVID test the night before the shoot. This worked out horribly for me as I still wanted to act, but I could not line up my schedule to save my life. Either I would have a day off where I could get the COVID test, but not perform on set, or vice versa. I would have a day off where I could show up on set, but would not be able to make it down to the COVID test on time because I was working. This tragically forced me to turn down a ton of fantastic roles. I mean, literally dozens and dozens, many of which I wanted to do, and many of which could and very well likely could have led to an incredible opportunity or two. But about 2 weeks ago, Central Casting, as of this recording 2 weeks ago, Central Casting asked if I was available to work a show called Lonestar. Actually, it was called 911 Lonestar. And I said yes. For some reason, it was perfect. The days off that I currently have now just lined up perfectly. The COVID test, I could get off work immediately and go down and do it right before they closed the COVID test location. And I could show up on set, and it was just perfect. And the days where I did respond yes, the few times I could, I wasn't booked on the show. Because remember, Central Casting just asks for your availability first. Whereas Extras Management or Uncut Casting or a host of other smaller Extras Management will actually just book you and then tell you. But I replied yes, and wasn't really expecting a reply back. But they did. They said, "You're booked." And I was pretty excited because it'd been at this point, gosh, about 2 years since I'd actually been on a set at that point. So, all right, last show I've been in so far was an episode of, as I explained, 911 Lonestar, 911 Lonestar on Fox. Now, this episode has not been aired yet as of this podcast recording and will not be for at least many months, maybe even a year. So I am limited as to what I can say here and definitely nothing about the plot. However, I will say it was at Fox Studios, and I did get a few scenes next to actor Rob Lowe, which was really cool. And I would like to harp on two things about this acting job that I've talked about already, but certainly cannot say enough. And I'll give you examples here. 1, Hollywood is more often than not about luck. And 2, follow directions and people will notice. I was instructed to wear dress clothing, so I wore a blue shirt and dress pants. And I also probably brought about 6 different other dress clothing costumes that I could change into if that wasn't going to work. In this scene, I was cleared by wardrobe, by the way, but in this scene, something strange happens and everyone, including me, start to pantomime with people around us. Pantomiming means you pretend to talk without saying any words so that it can be added later by production. For example, maybe it's a small audience at a business conference and everybody's just talking, but we're all pantomiming. We're pretending to talk without saying a word. And what production will do is add, the background chatter to make it look like everyone's talking when they're not. They're really not saying anything. And the reason why they have to do this is for union rules. If you get to talk in the film outside of maybe a bunch of people screaming at once or something like that, they have to pay you a speaking role. And like I said, Hollywood is, as much as they pretend not to be, they are capitalist to the core, and they are not going to pay a bunch of people upgraded speaking fees to be day players or otherwise. So we pantomime. Well, unfortunately for me in this scene, my blue dress shirt was just too bright, and I was removed from the front where I was to the very back. I did a few scenes and was told by one of the assistant directors, they don't like your blue shirt. You're going to have to change it. Well, I didn't have a shirt with me. It was back at holding. So they moved me really far back, probably not really viewable in the camera. And that sucks. You don't want to do that. I felt like I did something wrong, even though I didn't. I was cleared by wardrobe. I brought everything I was asked to. It just didn't work. And that's just luck. That's just you got to roll with the punches here. The director, I guess, they get to decide the final say, of course. It's their directing. And if they don't like a scene or they don't like something, they have the power to fix it and there's nothing you can do. Now, although that sucked, fortunately for me, the scene went on again and the director just wasn't satisfied with the person that replaced me at the front. So fortunately for me, the main director, and I do mean the main director, I guess I don't want to say who it is, but I'll just say the main director liked the way I was acting. Liked the way I was communicating with the person beside me who was pretending to be my wife. And they wanted me back to where I was, front and center. But in some cases, the main director doesn't so much as look at background actors. Doesn't even talk to them, won't even like glance your directions. And it's almost like they're God on set. They really are. And you don't say anything to them. They don't say anything to you. They're just on a whole nother level, way up above. And on other sets or productions like this one, you'll have really good directors who will, yes, he'll work with the actors, but he'll actually go around to all the background actors and give you direction as well. And I think that's just so cool, you know, being given direction by a top rated director on a Hollywood set at the Fox lot. You know, it's just like, wow, you know, for some people, a dream come true. But in any case, he wanted me back there so bad. He thought I was doing such a good job on the scene that he stopped the production completely and had an assistant director drive me back to holding, which was several sound stages away, in his own golf cart, so that I could change my shirt and get back on set. Talk about the royal treatment. I mean, I really did feel kind of special. Even when I got back to holding, everyone was like, "Hey, it's the blue guy," you know. So I felt like a little celebrity for a few minutes. But that's why I want to harp on this. Come to set ready to work, do a good job, make an impression, follow directions, and you will get noticed, and you will be, you know, placed back front and center where you can be trusted to be on camera and with the main actors. And in some cases, if you're lucky, as I said, Hollywood's 90% luck, you know, you might be like, "Hey, I need you to say this line. And by the way, you know, make sure you get your SAG-AFTRA card after all this and apply." And that's how luck works in Hollywood. Do the right thing, show up on time, follow directions, and your chances of making it big will increase dramatically. You'll build relationships. Directors and actors will remember you, and sooner or later, you may find your big break, folks. So, final thoughts here. That's my experience so far on acting in Hollywood. I expect plenty more roles in the future, and I can't wait to share them with you folks as they come. Maybe after I do a role, I'll talk about it on the podcast before each episode. But obviously this podcast is more about things to do. But I did include background acting as a thing to do in Southern California, and something that makes Southern California unique, because even if you're coming here to visit for, let's say you're coming here for a week for vacation, for whatever reason, or even if you're coming on business, you can go down to Central Casting as long as you pre-plan this correctly and go on the calendar when you're coming and make sure you select the right dates and everything else. Often casting directors are already watching people that come in, like they were with me and my group, when you go register at Central Casting, and they'll select you for a job the next day. And, you know, if you're the next day, your plan is to go to, I don't know, Venice Beach for a walk or something, you know, you could put that on hold to end up in Hollywood, and possibly that 0.001% chance of getting a speaking role that leads to SAG-AFTRA card, which leads to day player role, which leads to a principal acting role, which leads to you sipping filet mignon on your private yacht, you know, off the Catalina Island coast as a famous celebrity actor. You know, things happen. Every one of those bronze and rose-colored stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, they started off where you guys started off. They started off where I started off. They were nothing, and they got lucky. They had their big break, and they became famous, sometimes overnight. So anyways, that's just some of the things I wanted to share with you about background acting as I march towards my ultimate goal, not to be the next Brad Pitt, but to join SAG-AFTRA. By the way, before I forget, I want to mention how and maybe why you should or should not join SAG-AFTRA, and basically what the pros and cons are to doing so. SAG-AFTRA, spelled SAG-AFTRA, again, is the union that represents all actors and actresses in all major productions, TV shows, commercials, some student films, and virtually every movie you see on the big screen. The first way to get into SAG-AFTRA is to get 3 union background vouchers for working a background job. The union mandates that each production hire a certain number of actors that are members of SAG-AFTRA before they can hire a non-union background, which is the majority of background actors to begin with. There are much more non-union background actors than there are union background actors. To do this, the production will first hire the required number of unionized actors. Then, once their quota is filled, will look for non-union actors. But what if the production cannot find enough unionized actors? To get around this, if they absolutely cannot find any unionized actors willing to work, they are permitted to then hire non-unionized actors, but must give them the upgraded pay rate. Basically to encourage them to hire union actors. You'll be given literally a golden ticket or voucher, I guess. If you can manage to get 3 of these golden vouchers, you immediately become eligible to join SAG-AFTRA. The second way to join SAG-AFTRA as a background actor is to get upgraded with a speaking role. This generally can be as simple as you screaming by yourself or you speaking a simple line. For example, let's say the main actor gets into a huge fight with the bad guy, comes out on top, cuffs the suspect, and you as the background actor show up as a regular patrol cop to take him away. The director might look at the scene and, by his grace, have you add a line to the scene, such as, "All right, let's go downtown, pal." Those simple few words will get you upgraded from background to day player and allow you to join SAG-AFTRA. The next way that could potentially get you into SAG-AFTRA is by putting together your own SAG-AFTRA production. And it doesn't have to be a Universal Studios, big budget, multi-million-dollar production either. SAG-AFTRA has several agreements you can enter into for low-budget productions, such as new media, special new media, or ultra-low budget productions. Think small business TV commercial or YouTube movie, for example. The next way in is reciprocity. Over the years, SAG-AFTRA has gained alliances with several other organizations, such as Actors Equity Association, the Alliance of Canadian Cinema, Television, and Radio Artists, American Guild of Musical Artists, and the American Guild of Variety Artists. By being a member of one of these unions for at least a year and working at least one principal role with them, you'll be eligible to join SAG-AFTRA. If you are fortunate enough to be in AFTRA before it merged to become SAG-AFTRA, you automatically got to join as well. AFTRA was the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, which was a free union before its merger with SAG. Finally, there are special cases, which is described as engaged in work that would advance the union's active organizing efforts or goals. It's not really elaborated what that is. Engaged in work that advances the union's active organizing efforts or goals. But if you meet that qualification, the board of directors likes something that you did, then they let you in. Now, the initiation fees are a flat $3,000 to join SAG-AFTRA. There are also semi-annual dues, which end up being a few $100s. And in addition to all that, you'll have to pay a percentage of your earnings for any project you do or get hired on, background or otherwise. So why join? That's a lot of money. For starters, you get paid much better. For example, a major TV production for a 1 hour TV show, a performer in a quote major role will be paid $7,744 per week minimum. A day player would be paid $1,082 per day minimum. Not bad for a day's work, huh? Background actors would be paid $187 for 8 hours of work. You'll also have access to top training seminars and casting workshops, along with discounts through a large variety of businesses that want to attract actors, famous or otherwise, to their business. You'll get collective bargaining, which almost always has pay raises every year. Finally, SAG-AFTRA's health plan is among the envy of the world, highly generous, and includes access to top doctors that even a lot of celebrities use and go to. Why would you not want to join SAG-AFTRA? Well, because of rule number 1, of course. The golden rule. If you join SAG-AFTRA, you will no longer be permitted to work any and all acting jobs that are not affiliated with SAG-AFTRA. That means most student films as well. In addition, depending where you are in your career, once a production hires their mandatory unionized background actors, which is a much smaller quota than union, they'll almost certainly hire non-union actors to save money. This means less acting jobs outside of principal or day player roles, which require you to submit an audition for, or have your talent agency do so for you. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the One Day at SoCal podcast. Thanks for listening to a few war stories from my time in Hollywood so far. And hopefully you'll be seeing me in a lot more roles, initially as a background and eventually with a few day player roles. If interested at all, you can catch me on Internet Movie Database. Just type in Tim Alcoser, TIMALCOSER, and I'll pop up. Or timalcoser.net is my acting profile on the web. So you could catch me there if interested. I just basically put on some of the roles I've done. And if you go to Internet Movie Database, you'll see some of the scenes I've done. I put up on there as well.